Hello, America. Hello, my fellow Americans. My name is Mike, Organic Dad Mike, Mike's Organic Videos, here on YouTube. And today I'm just urging all Americans who are eligible to vote to get out and vote this November 8th. And to absolutely, positively not vote for that megalomaniac, Donald J. Trump. In addition, I'm here to urge you that you should in fact cast your vote for Hillary Clinton. Is she the ideal candidate? Of course not. There is no such thing. But she's far preferable to Donald J. Trump, a very dangerous, narcissistic sociopath who has no respect for women, colludes with foreign governments, associates with known criminals, and has gone through the last 30 years basically lining his pockets by taking advantage of, conning, and cheating other people. That is a fact. The only person that Donald Trump cares about helping is Donald Trump. This whole campaign is a means to stroking his own gigantic, enormous ego and lining his pockets and those of his family. Campaign funds that have been raised ostensibly to help him run for president have been used to give money to his son Eric for his winery, for all his children for expenses and other things, and this is a pattern that has been repeated over and over again with Mr. Trump. The man has no experience at running any branch of government or in any kind of public service, and as a matter of fact, he claims to be a successful businessman, he's had many businesses fail. Now, all successful people have failures, that is true. But the fact is that other than his television show The Apprentice, most of his businesses have not been profitable for anybody other than Donald Trump. Thousands of employees have lost their jobs. Many more have lost their higher savings when stock of Mr. Trump's that they invested in, like his Atlantic City casinos, which were so over-leveraged that he lost controlling interest in them. Individuals who had $35 a share of value woke up the next day and had 17 cents per share of value. At the same time that over $1 billion was lost by people associated with that casino, Donald Trump pocketed something like $82 million. So Donald Trump came out okay. Everybody else got misery and financial loss. This is a pattern that repeats. That is what this man will do with this country if somehow the insanity prevails and he's elected president. He will line his pockets, those of his family, many of the 1% with his tax break for the very rich, and the rest of us will have more misery than we think we have now. That is just a given. That is a fact. That is his pattern. This man, Donald Trump, is a racist. He's been a racist for more than 30 years. He followed the pattern set by his father with discriminatory practices with his buildings, with apartments, routinely discriminating against minorities, especially people of color, so to speak, and he does not care for anybody other than himself and possibly his immediate family. This is just who this man is. He's the used car salesman that you know is cheating you, but he charms you into doing something and spending your money anyway. That is who Donald Trump is. Hillary Clinton is not a perfect candidate by any means, of course, but she has more than 30 years of public service. She has been a champion for women and children since the beginning of her life in public service. And while she is not always truthful, like any politician, the difference between the two of them is a chasm, okay? In the 3 debates, Politico said that Donald Trump lied an average of more than 30 to 33 times per debate. That comes out to about a lie every 3 minutes or so, and he wasn't speaking the whole time, of course, although sometimes it seemed like it. On the other hand, Secretary Clinton may have been untruthful or not completely truthful 4 or 5 times per debate, as opposed to 30 to 35 times for Donald Trump. Politico says that Donald Trump, for the most part, lies more than 70% of the time. More than 70% of what comes out of his mouth is, in fact, a lie. Even the most egregious politicians, for the most part, are lying perhaps an average of 25 to 28% of the time. We're talking over 70% for Mr. Trump. He's a pathological liar. That is just who Donald J. Trump is. He will say or do anything to get what he wants. One of his Bibles is probably The Prince by Machiavelli. This is a man who keeps a collection of Adolf Hitler's speeches in a cabinet near his bed. And yes, he is a racist, but the fact is, I'm sure Adolf Hitler's main appeal to Donald J. Trump is that he was able to get thousands and thousands of people to come to his rallies, cheer for him, and tell him how great and wonderful he was. This is what Donald Trump lives on, the adulation and praise of others. This is what he needs. He is such a narcissist, such a sociopath. This is what he wants. He just wants praise. He wants everyone to tell him how great he is, to live up to the delusions of grandeur that he has for himself. This is a man who surrounds himself with gold furniture and sits on the equivalent of a throne in his penthouse apartment in Trump Tower, very similar to the one that Vladimir Putin sits on in Russia. And make no mistake about it, Donald Trump has a relationship with Vladimir Putin. He bragged about it well before he was running for president. And now, of course, as a presidential candidate, he is denying it, but it's a fact. People that worked for Mr. Trump were in direct contact with people who were in direct contact with Vladimir Putin. He has done business with criminals in the past for more than 20 years. He has knowingly done business with people that were involved in criminal enterprises. That is who Donald Trump is. His trial for fraud for Trump University starts towards the end of this month, where he built many people out of their life savings, selling them what wasn't even a university and was basically a scam to get people to part with their money and receive virtually nothing for it. He talks about bringing jobs back to America, producing jobs, creating jobs. But this is a man who has outsourced his businesses to more than at least 12 countries, probably more, including China and Mexico, two countries that, of course, he talks about bringing American jobs back from, but he, in fact, has outsourced work to those countries himself for his cheap ties made in China and other goods made in Mexico and other countries. All basically failed businesses, of course. So you cannot believe anything this man says. He thinks he is the best at everything, while he is ignorant about many things. He wants to cut taxes, he says, but increase programs. In other words, increase spending. A fifth grader knows you cannot do both. You cannot cut taxes and increase spending. That is called deficit spending, and we already have a huge deficit, and he talks about reducing it. And in the same breath, he talks about increasing spending and decreasing taxes. Like I said, the average fifth grader knows that that's a bunch of hooey or malarkey, as Vice President Joe Biden might say. Doesn't happen. He talks about building a wall between us and Mexico and getting the Mexicans to pay for it. Really? How? How are you going to get the Mexicans to pay for it? And how are you going to build such a big wall? It's not feasible. He talks about deporting 11 million Syrians and other foreign nationals. Really, all the experts who know way better than Donald Trump say if you triple the amount of people in the immigration naturalization departments and border patrol and all that, if you triple them, it would take at least 19 years to try and deport all these people. 19 years. Not happening. But of course, Mr. Trump sees himself as a king, or perhaps an emperor, or maybe a Caesar. And he has done a lot of seizing, hasn't he? Seized women's bottoms, seized people's money, seized people's hopes and dreams, and left them with nothing. That's the kind of seizing that this would-be Caesar has done. There is no good reason to vote for Donald Trump unless you are also a narcissistic sociopath and are one of the top 1% income who don't have, and the ones that don't have a conscience, as opposed to Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and others who have given much of their money to help others less fortunate themselves. But otherwise, unless you're just looking at the tax cut for yourself, there is not a single reason to vote for this man. And while I'm on the subject, yes, I've been mostly talking about all the problems with Donald Trump because they're legion. But if you think you're going to vote your conscience and vote for a third-party candidate, whether it's Jill Stein or Mr. Libertarian, I'm not even going to say his name because the man can't even mention the name of one world leader. That is just pathetic and abysmal. Maybe the man just smoked too much pot and his memory is gone. But you put this man in the Oval Office, and if you're just trying to make a statement, understand that voting for anyone other than Hillary Clinton is a vote for Donald Trump. Because under our current system of electing our president, the winner does not need a clear majority. As long as they get more votes than anybody else, and in this case, there's the Electoral College to deal with. The fact is that someone without a clear mandate can be elected president, and it has happened over and over again. So a vote for anyone other than Hillary Clinton is a vote for Donald Trump, a man that has no business being president. In fact, it has been reported, and it is documented, and it is nothing but a fact that Donald Trump sent his son Eric to Governor John Kasich, offered him the vice presidential spot on the ticket, and told him that he would be in charge of both foreign policy and domestic policy. Generally, the president's purview is at least one of those two things. And when John Kasich asked Eric Trump what Donald Trump would in fact be doing then if he wasn't in charge of either foreign or domestic policy, he was told, well, he'll be making America great again. Right. America is great now. Yes, we have problems. And the fact that we have not had a woman president yet, when something like 80 countries have, and we're supposed to be so progressive, but 80 other countries have had the leader of their country be a woman, and we have not. Yeah, electing a woman president, that's something that would make America more great, but we are great already. But I digress. Donald J. Trump is a man who doesn't want to do any of the work of being president. He basically said that when he told his son to tell John Kasich that he would basically be doing most of the work of president if he became the vice president. This is a man who wants the pomp, the power, the ability to control large amounts of money and line his own pockets, his family, and perhaps some of his cronies and other quote-unquote one-percenters. This man does not care for you. Those of you out there who think he speaks for you, the white supremacists, the other people that feel like they've been marginalized and want the country to be the way it was in the days of their fathers or their grandfathers. Oh, some of it will be but he wants this to be more like Russia, a police state. Believe me, a President Trump is not something you would want. You think now that it sounds like a good idea, but more misery. Only misery will come to us, to almost all of us, if this man were somehow to become elected. And the last thing I'm going to say, before I urge you again, please get out and vote. Do not vote for Donald J. Trump. It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And do not vote for a third-party candidate. This is not the year to try and send a message other than we do not want Donald Trump as president, and we will therefore vote for Hillary Clinton. But there was a television program more than 20 years ago called Wise Guy, starring Ken Wall as a CIA agent named Vinny Terranova who had to go undercover as a mafia criminal. It was a very well done program. One season, Fred Dalton Thompson, who was a lawyer turned actor who became a politician and served in Washington, was a man named Knox Pooley, a white supremacist who went on television and made speeches and basically united white supremacists against minorities. Of course, he was actually doing all this just to raise large sums of cash. It was just another scam for this man, which we did not find out until later on during the story arc. But in fact, he thought this was a good way to raise money. Some of his lieutenants ended up murdering people. And when the FBI finally descended and was arresting people and people were getting shot, he disappeared. And where did Knox Pooley, the so-called leader of these disgruntled white supremacists, where did he end up? In Florida, selling timeshares to senior citizens. His latest scam. Mr. Trump has already set up some sort of a television network, which will be another money grab and another shrine to his incredibly humongous ego. And that will be where Mr. Trump will be after this election. And hopefully it's the only place he'll be after this election, well, pending the outcome of his fraud trial, of course. But in our current system, he will probably just be paying fines and restitution, and of course would not serve a day of jail, whether or not whether he is president or not, and God help us if he is. God help us all, or whatever supreme being or force in the universe you believe in. Do not vote for this man. Do not vote for Donald J. Trump. Any of you younger people out there who weren't sure if you were going to vote in this election, if you hate all the candidates and don't want to vote, don't sit this one out. If you're able to vote, you must vote. Because, as it's been said many times, the best way for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. This man is evil. This man will take our country down a dark path, which could take decades to undo. Everybody but the very rich will have less than they have now. Very likely he might even have to set up internment camps if he tried to implement his deporting all of these people, because you cannot deport 11 million people quickly and you have to put them somewhere, don't you? So again, do not vote for this man. Think about it. Even if you thought that he was the best choice, he's not. He has no business in public office. He has never been elected to any office. He's only been interested in himself, raising money for himself, lining his pockets, while leaving everybody else with nothing or next to nothing. He routinely gets his contractors to take pennies on the dollar or threaten to take them to court. He's been sued almost 10,000 times, I believe. But, again, to wrap up, please, I urge you, number one, do not vote for Donald J. Trump. Number two, you must vote. And number three, vote for Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton is elected, if you do not like the way she is running things, you have 4 years to find somebody else you like better. If this man, Donald J. Trump, gets elected, we may never have another free election, because this man does not believe in freedoms. This man believes in power grabs and seizing everything he can for himself. So even if you don't like Hillary Clinton, you can vote her out in 4 years. You very likely would not have that option with Mr. Trump, because it'll be a far different United States of America in 4 years if this crazy person gets elected. So get out and vote on November 8th. If you haven't voted early, do not vote for Donald J. Trump, and do not vote for any third-party candidates. I myself voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary just so that his voice would be heard by the Clinton campaign and platform would be changed, which it was. Now is the time to vote for Hillary Clinton, who is very qualified to run this country for the next 4 years. She's the only candidate who is qualified. Everything else, emails, all this other stuff, is smoke and mirrors and a bunch of nonsense. The fact is, she will do far more good than anything she might do or has done that you have a problem with, as opposed to Donald Trump. We cannot put an insane megalomaniac in charge of our country. A man who says our military is awful. How do you military people feel? How can any of you support this man who keeps talking about how terrible the military is when the rest of the world knows we're the greatest fighting force in the world? We have the best technology, the best trained people. It's just insane How can anybody vote for a man who keeps telling you how awful you are and how terrible everything is? So again, to conclude, do not vote for Donald J. Trump. Do vote, and do vote for Hillary Clinton. In 4 years, hopefully, if you do not like the way she has been president, you can vote her out, as long as you do not vote for Donald J. Trump. Because if you do, you may not have the chance to correct that mistake. That's all I'm going to say. I hope I've gotten my point across. I'm sure there's more I could say. I didn't even bring up the fact that this man is a serial molester of women, and that your sisters, mothers, daughters, even spouses are not safe from this man. Again, do not vote for this man. There's so many reasons. Do not destroy our country by voting for this crazy man who just wants his face on TV, which he's going to do after the election, but at least he won't be destroying our country in the way he could as president. Vote for Donald Trump, you destroy America. Please get out and vote. Vote for Hillary Clinton. You can always get rid of her in 4 years if that's your choice, or try to. You can vote against her in 4 years. But to vote for anyone but her now will destroy this country. And that is not just my opinion, it is the opinion of most thinking people in this country. Thank you. And God bless America. May the universe bless America. Whatever force you believe in, bless America. Let us keep America free. It's already great. It will not be great under Donald Trump. It will not be free under Donald Trump. It will be a disaster.